And I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, this is dumb. I hate this. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. And I wanted to quit. I really did want to quit in that moment. And this is my very first time ever trying martial arts. I stopped myself right there because I was like, this is not going to be one more thing that you tell yourself I could have, but I didn't want to. I could have been great at this, but I just didn't feel like it.
Making a firm commitment to your success is super important. I think people don't do that. Oh, I'll just do this other thing first. Well, if you don't have a real goal and you don't have a real deadline and you don't have a real accountability, you have no plan. You're literally just, you're going to be a failure. That's the default outcome is not like a palace in the sky. The default outcome is like a room temperature pile of shit. Perhaps with flies. Today I'm chatting with Vanessa Demopoulos. Vanessa is in the UFC. She's a little badass over there, been getting a lot of victories on her record recently. Grew up in Greece originally, then moved to Ohio later in life. How old were you when you came to the States?
I was born here, raised there until I was like 8, and then I came back.
Gotcha.
So, yes. My name in Greek is Christina Vanessa Demopoulos.
Of course.
Of course.
Of course. I've been to Greece a couple times. I've enjoyed it. I was like a philosophy nerd in college, so I was always a business major, but I took a lot of philosophy courses, and you learn so much about Greek culture and the history of Greece from the lineage from Socrates was the mentor of Plato, and Plato was the mentor of Aristotle, and Aristotle was the mentor of Alexander, and people don't know that that was Alexander of Macedon, which is Macedonia, and then the North and South Macedonia thing, which is apparently controversial to some still today.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you were really into philosophy.
I know a little bit.
Tell me that you saw the Parthenon when you went.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. I went to Socrates, where the place where he supposedly was jailed and drank the poison hemlock, and I felt a little emotional there. I felt a little sad. I went to, I think it's called the Lyceum, Aristotle's school in Athens, which is some remains still there, and so yeah, those were kind of like, I don't know, probably somebody else goes to the Vatican and they feel really excited about the religious or holy aspect or spiritual aspect of that, and maybe I felt more that way in Greece than I did when I went to the Vatican.
Yeah.
When I went to the Vatican, probably shouldn't say this, but those are the best stories. When I went to the Vatican, a obnoxious foreign couple pushed me, and then pushed a small girl, a small woman that I was with, and they're just kind of obnoxious and too rough. It's ignorant, moving through the crowd and intent. And I didn't really like that the guy pushed me, and then he pushes like a 105-pound girl that's with me, and I shoved him pretty aggressively.
Yeah.
Not like to throw him on the ground, but to let him know
why was he pushing people?
Probably you shouldn't do
was
that.
Was he just trying to get through the crowd, or?
Yeah, he was just being pretty aggressive and moving through the crowd.
Yeah.
And then maybe a year and a half later, the girl mentioned to me, she's like, even at the Vatican, you can't behave yourself. Even at the Vatican. Now I'll be kicked out of the holy city. But,
oh my goodness.
But I went there a couple of times. I already seen it. I'll try not. If I come back, I'll try not to push any more foreigners.
He pushed you first. Human error was on his fault.
That part was okay, but then for a man to then push a 105-pound girl after he pushed me, is that was the part that bothered my brain. I thought that was kind of fucked up. And
see, now had he pushed me as a smaller female, he would have definitely fucked up.
Yeah, you just a little flying arm bar action in the middle of the Vatican.
Yes.
No problem. Rear naked joke for him.
Yes.
Well, his wife watches.
Peaceful violence. Peaceful violence.
I digress. But in any case, I had fun times in Europe. I had fun times in Greece specifically. And what were your thoughts about that? Early in life, that transition from European culture to Ohio, Cleveland.
Right, in Cleveland. Well, when I first came over, I actually couldn't communicate with my own mom. So I spoke Greek solely, and I remember being in school and trying to ask people for things and not knowing how to ask properly because I didn't speak the language, so I would just take things, and everyone thought I was this bully, just taking pencils and taking paper, and the only thing I could understand was math because the numbers translate, but I couldn't read or write or speak, and that was a little bit complicated going to school with all of that. But I think culturally I was too young to really understand the magnitude of everything, But then as an adult, as like we would go back, and you notice in the afternoon they take naps over there. Like the quality of life is just so much higher and like richer. The food tastes better. The people are happier. They're well rested, they stay up later, they enjoy dinner, they sit together at the table, and they have quality time with each other. And that's something that I think America really lacks. Like they're so busy, they're so turn and burn, that the quality is really diminished a lot here in the States versus over in the European countries.
A counterpoint, and I don't mean to be argumentative, but I'm curious of your
I
perspective.
think argumentative is definitely your nature.
I like to be argumentative with strangers. I'm kind of a us against them type person.
I like it.
I don't want to argue with a friend or a guest, but I'd be happy to argue with the rest of the world, if that makes sense.
I'm here for it.
But a different perspective I've had going between, I've spent, I don't know, it's maybe 3.5 years of my life in Europe, something like that, and just in Europe, I've been in 35 or so, 37 countries maybe, including all the little tiny ones I started collecting later. But I thought, I agree with everything you said in terms of some of the food is better. There's places in Europe that they have, higher quality food, less processed foods, more authentic. I'll say organic, I suppose, is probably the right word. When I think about how people spend their time, I think there's more intentional time spent with family. And there's more intentional time around dinner or bonding with your friends or family. That makes sense to me. But when you talked about the busyness, that's the one part that kind of clicked in my head. I'm like, are people in the United States busy, or do they just grossly mismanage their time? And my perspective is more like, there's a lot of time spent on video games and social media and just kind of mindless, stupid shit that's not productive, it's really counterproductive. It's not only unproductive, but counterproductive to anything resembling, success or, high quality outcomes. So not only are they not bonding with their family, but in the time that they could have been bonding with friends or family, or maybe, enjoying or creating important relationships or alliances, instead they got their face, glued to a screen, doing not much, literally making themselves stupid, and being consumers of advertisement instead of producers of anything.
I hear you and I agree with you. And it really brought up a point of like mismanaging time, when I think that over in the European countries, maybe they do the same, but in a different way. So we're playing video games and doing mindless things like social media all day. Over there, they're just spending time with their family, which is so valuable. But also they're not spending their time creating anything. Like you go down the street to the butcher, you go across the street to the coffee shop, you go down the street to the bread person, and all of these people have their niche and they live in that, their family lives in that, and they don't ever go outside of their box. They don't ever expand their minds. Where I feel like here in the United States, we have so much access to information, and it's literally being shoved down our throats, where it almost encourages the behavior of ambition. Where they're just very encouraged to live a life with your family, grow up the way that your parents grew up, and don't really change anything. Don't go outside the box too much.
I like the ambitious parts of America, and I wish it was even more. I'm not good at moderation. I either do something pretty intensely or I don't do it. And
Yeah.
You seem to have that sort of personality yourself.
Oh, I'm a little fireball. Yes.
I didn't notice. What are some of the key elements then that, in that cultural transition, or, after you got your English figured out well, what were some of those, elements of ambition that sparked in your head that you'd be like, I need to do more. I need to do something, be somebody, do something different than the environment that you were in?
I think the environment that I was in is what actually propelled me. So just seeing Cleveland, and the nature of everybody there, nobody was very ambitious at all. And it was really difficult to just accept that, and just know, like, for the rest of my life, this is what my life is going to be. I always wanted more for myself at a younger age. And I got into a lot of fights in school. Like I got kicked out of 4 schools in 1 calendar year. So I was never the average person. Like I was always just like really rough around the edges. I was always like very restless. And had a lot of energy. So it was just about like placing my energy into different directions. And like you, I'm also very intense when I do something. Like I'm very intentional. I really do go 1,000% into things. So when I found fighting, it really just like blew up for me. Everything that I do it with like 1,000,000%, or I'm not going to do it at all. I feel like I'm wasting my time if I'm giving anything 50% of me.
12 thoughts in my head about that. So you weren't always so calm and subdued as you are now.
Yeah, I'm so calm.
I think it's a mistake for some people. I think it's a mistake for most people that they talk about a balanced life a little too early. And it's not that I hate the idea of a balanced life later in life, but do you know many world champions that had like a balanced? They were living a balanced life on their way to accomplish those type of goals. So I just don't know a lot of extraordinarily rich people that their primary concern early in life was balance, or people that are successful in other areas. For those of you that might value other things more than money, people say to me, Derek, money's not everything. There's always poor people. Poor people say that. Derek, money's not everything. There's more to life than well. Even having $1 million in the United States increases your life expectancy 11 years. $1 million adds 11 years to your life expectancy. And $1 million is not a lot of money anymore.
It doesn't go very far.
I always say you could buy a really nice parking spot in Hong Kong for $1 million. That's what $1 million is. You couldn't buy a nice place in New York. You couldn't buy a nice place in San Francisco, which has really gone to hell, but you can't even buy a nice place there.
Isn't it that the average cost of a home right now is like $740 million or something of that nature? Or I'm sorry, $740,000.
A number that I saw recently, and I think is a 2020 number, they're saying 420,000.
Yeah.
And that's a national average. So there's probably city averages, like you're saying, that a New York City average I would anticipate is 1.6 million. Yep. I'm saying that off the top of my head. I'm not Googling a statistic. You could do that yourself easily. I would think it's about 1.6 million in New York. It used to be higher. I think it's gone down a little bit. A lot of wealthy people have left there. San Francisco, as along what you said, is 700 something, 800,000.
Yeah, so $500,000 is going to be the national average.
Yeah, with inflation, no problem. Yeah.
And then you're still talking about cost of living and wanting to do anything fun outside of just working and home, where you don't even get to enjoy your home because you're so busy working.
Yeah, true. So that money isn't everything. You just made the point again. Really, is even if you just had your home paid for and you were just covering your living expenses, even that is quite a comfort or a luxury that you're not making payments. The word mortgage, it comes. Mort. What does that mean? Is like death. It's like payment until death.
Woof.
It's literally what it means. So, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's nice to have access to capital. It's nice to have access to capital so you could have a nice home and make payments on it, or you have access to buy education or things that are important that would help you with a brighter future. I think it's an error to buy stupid consumable things or luxury goods on a credit card, or to go into debt for luxury items is extraordinarily dumb.
Oh yeah.
To go into debt for education or investments that pay you a higher return than the debt costs, like that's smart. That's what smart people do. Mm-hmm. So I'm not against debt. Every smart business person has some debt, but debt for the wrong reasons is it's hard to work to pay that off. It makes no sense. You're making your life worse, not better. So I think it's important to be mindful of that. But if you had enough money that your home's paid for and your bills are paid and you can eat what you want and go where you want, even that's like pretty nice comfort in life,
Oh my goodness, that's such a huge luxury.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a huge luxury to not stress out about that kind of stuff, to not stress out about your vehicle payment and your house payment and trying to put food on the table. Like, we don't really comprehend that, but when you come from those types of areas and like you still know those types of people, it's mind-boggling how they don't just like run like they're lit on fire to try to get out of those types of situations. And they get more beat up by life versus wanting to beat life up and go out there and get after things and fight for their own worth and value.
I love the way you said that. Have an urgency like you're on fire to go get shit done, to go accomplish, or to have some goals and go accomplish them.
Yeah.
I felt a lot that way earlier in life. I wasn't always so calm and well-mannered as I am today. And I very much felt that way. I thought, like, this is fucked. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I wasn't going to stay there. I was like, this is terrible. I'm like, no. and I didn't have, I had terrible mentors. I didn't have good mentors, but I still had mentors. They were like bad mentors, if that makes sense, or I call them negative role models. And that's still useful, that, through that I could look around at people around me and I'd be like, all right, like, hard drugs doesn't look like a good idea. I don't see that as people that are engaging in those behaviors don't tend to have outcomes that I'm envious of. So let's not do that. Excessive drunkenness doesn't seem to lead to good outcomes. So let's not do that. So I had, role models like that, abundantly around me. But, I kind of had to go work pretty hard to have some better role models and better teachers over time. And, when you start following, high quality guidance, or, best in the world guidance, and if you're willing to work hard, that's great. But so some people think that, I'll just work hard and I don't need that shit. Well, if you're working hard on the wrong things, you're literally making your situation worse.
100%. Yes. And it's like, even when you're in the situations that you're referring to, where like you had all the bad examples around you and you're trying to reach for better mentors, you have to become a better person to even get the mentor's attention.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to help just everybody. You know how many people are reaching for good mentors? They don't have time for that. So you have to literally try to be like, well, what would the better version of me be reaching for, and become that, and then start reaching for more mentors, and then hopefully you can get their attention. And you might not, but you became a better person in the journey. And then you just start finding the right people and making one better decision at a time. It doesn't happen overnight. And that's like the part that I think people get so confused about. They see people in situations like yours and situations like mine, where I'm an accomplished UFC fighter who's still on fire right now. And it didn't happen for me. It was 10 years to become an overnight success. And it was a constant journey of making one better decision to not end up in the worst possible case scenario, which is where I started. So like, I came from there, and like, I understand it so personally that I see it in other people, and I'm like, you can. I know you can, because I did, and I understand the process. And yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, it's going to be hard. But yes, you can also create it if you freaking want it, and if you work your ass off for it, because not working your ass off for it is way harder than trying hard to create something great.
If your goals were easy to accomplish, everybody would have that shit, and you would need bigger goals. So, when people get frustrated that their success doesn't come soon enough, the success doesn't happen overnight. Having any meaningful success, if you could be successful by tomorrow, you've got extraordinarily small goals. If you could accomplish your goals this weekend, you have extraordinarily small goals, and you need bigger goals. But to have any meaningful success, it takes years and decades really to create any meaningful success. And if you don't get started on that now, you'll never have it. We kind of chatted about this previously, is that a person who has this thought in their head, like, well, I'm going to do blah, blah, blah before I get started. I'm going to get in shape before I start the MMA training. Or I'm going to make, I'm going to save $10,000 before I start learning about money. It's like, no, you just set yourself back 10 years, idiot. You set yourself back 10 years because fumbling around with the wrong ideas, having bad spending habits, and trying to earn money in suboptimal ways, you're not gonna do that in a year even. You're gonna, if you're doing dumbass shit, expecting to have good outcomes, it's like a mental illness. You should be in DSM-5, like the Diagnostical and Statistical Manual for Mental Illness. Something's wrong with you if you think that's true.
Oh,
it's
my
not going to
goodness.
happen.
It's so true. I talk about this all the time with jiu-jitsu people, because I love jiu-jitsu. I'm a black belt. Yes, let's go. In the gentle art of violence. And I love it so much, but people will be like, well, I'm going to, I gotta go get in shape first before I come out on the mats. And they see people like myself, where I'm a world-class athlete. Like, you're not going to get there right now, and you're not going to get there ever if you don't start. Like, nobody expects you to be great. Nobody expects you to even know how to do any moves at all. Like, we understand as you're coming out there as a brand new person, you're not going to have the answers, and we need to teach you, and we need to help you, and we need to have the same grace with you as others had with us. When I started in jiu-jitsu, I didn't know anything. I hated it. I wasn't good at it. It made me feel like I didn't understand what was going on, but I stuck with it and I learned. And I think a process like that is what makes me successful. And no matter what it is that I put my mind to, is knowing I'm not supposed to be great today. But as long as I don't quit, I will understand this. I will get it down. And I may never be amazing, but damn it, I'm going to work hard to at least know what I'm doing.
Wherever you're at, start there. So I'm going to just put that as a little note to say for our conversation today. Wherever you're at, start there. And just to mirror what you said, is like, I just started MMA a couple of years ago, and I was 300 pounds. I was 31% body fat. I wasn't in that shape because I was lazy. I was in that shape because I focused so much on business. They closed the gyms during the hysteria, and so I couldn't go to a gym. You couldn't, they didn't want you to go walk outside. It was ridiculous. It was the most awful tyranny I've seen in my life. And you know what? My response to that, by the way, I bought 8 properties and remodeled them, and I bought 4 homes and destroyed them and rebuilt them to build my own MMA gym, to build my own weightlifting gym. I have a better weightlifting gym than the UFC Performance Institute has by far. Mine's much better.
Oh my goodness!
So they have a lot of nice things there. It's a $20 million facility. It's a nice facility. I'm not knocking it. And my gym has maybe cost $4 million or so. But I built my own personal gym so the communists can't take my gym away again. Mm-hmm. So that was one thing that helped my confidence to know that, like, well, if I'm going to put in this work, I'm not going to backstep again like that, And I put together an amazing coaching team that I'm not aware of anybody in history that had a better MMA coaching team than I have. And that sounds ridiculous for like some business guy to say, but I have like the best people in the world. There's a bunch of champions and Hall of Famers that come train with me. That's been amazing. And that's really great for accountability. You talked about accountability earlier. That's very good for accountability. So I set that schedule. The next 4 months, my schedule's full. I don't have one weekend open, one spot open. I don't have one training session open for the next 4 months. It's totally full. Okay, so
that's so awesome.
It doesn't matter what mood I'm in. It doesn't matter if I got a little cold, if I got a flu, if I got a little headache. Some world champion athlete's going to be waiting in the other room for me when I wake up, and we're going to go train together. And I'm not going to go, Hoist Gracie was just over, Chuck Liddell was over a couple months ago, or Andre Arlovsky comes over all the time, Glover comes over, Gilbert Burns. I'm not going to go tell anybody that comes over there to train with me, so, I got a little headache today.
Yeah.
I'm not really feeling like it today.
Right.
I only slept 3 hours. I had a lot of things on my mind, and I only slept 3 hours. Maybe we should just skip training. I would never.
Yeah.
I would never, And imagine having those opportunities and then telling one of those people or anybody that you schedule time with of like, I got a little headache. It don't matter if I got a headache. We're going to go train, and I'm going to have a worse headache, and it's just going to be part of the day,
That's right, but you paid your dues, even if you didn't feel like it. And that's work that can never be taken away from you because you created that system of discipline for yourself, and nobody can ever take away your skills. That's the time equity that you put into that. It doesn't matter how amazing you are or not. That's yours. Like, you own that. That's your current chapter that you're on. And it's freaking awesome that you hold yourself accountable to that because you respect the people that are teaching you that much. Like, world champion or not, you respect their time. And that's beautiful that you're doing that because that's what's really driving you to continue to be great every single day. Like, I respect you enough that I want to take your programs and I want to learn from you. And it's like, being here right now, like, this is an honor for me. Like, let's just say I was sick today. Like, there's no way that I wasn't showing up for this, because I respect your time and I know exactly how amazing you are and what a specialist you are at what you do because you've put in that time equity. So am I great at knowing the things you know? Absolutely not. But I'm learning now.
She's a great flatterer. That's one of her other black belt skills. She's a great flatterer. So one of her high talents.
Yes, but one day I will know a lot more than I do today, and it starts with starting.
When I started that MMA stuff, again, right now I'm at 255. Was at 9.9% body fat Thursday morning. A couple days ago, I bought a nice scale. It's like a $10,000 in-body scale that tells you like your body, and it's probably not exactly accurate, or you could be in one of those floaty tanks. Probably tells you a more accurate number, but
Sure.
It's the best damn thing you could possibly have, that you can be on it for 1 minute and it gives you a pretty great answer, the best possible answer. So 9.9% down from 31%, 255 down from 300, and I never went on a strict diet. I never went on a diet at all. I had some ice cream last week, had some French fries today. I eat whatever I want to. I eat smaller portions of things that aren't great for me. I have a couple bites of something instead of a large fry. I have a handful of fries.
Yeah.
Instead of a pint of ice cream, I have 3 spoonfuls of ice cream or something. But a lot of that's just MMA training, weightlifting. It wasn't like I needed extreme discipline in my diet at all to make those transitions.
But your extreme discipline does come in other areas, which is staying consistent with your workouts and your regimens. And MMA is not for the weak. That stuff is hard. So
I tell a humbling story about that. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're just a super badass and you don't have a similar story. But
I am a super badass.
Clearly. When I first started, this again less than 2 years ago, and I had Jake Shields came to work with me. I know Jake for several years. Jake came to help me out with a few things. Paulie Malignaggi came to help me with some boxing. I don't know if you know who Paulie is, but he's 5-time world champion and nice guy. And I thought to myself, in that time, I asked each of them to come like every 4 weeks, in perpetuity, forever. Come every 4 weeks and we'll work on that. And, that's 6-7 days a month. And, it took me 1 month to understand. I'm like, you're not going to be good at boxing or grappling training, splitting your attention between 2 things 6-7 days a month is nothing's gonna happen. So it took me 1 month to understand, like, well, you have to accelerate this significantly or just find something else to do because you're not gonna be any good at this. So then I thought, well, who else do I know that'd be fun to work with and would make the time to show up? So I asked Tito Ortiz to come over, I asked Mike Chandler to come over, and so on and so on and so on, and built momentum of invited some other people over time. And now it's just ridiculous. So I bring 5 coaches a month for 4 or 5 days, or 4 days usually, and so I spend about 19 days a month training, and then weights and so on. So, but about 4 months in, Chuck came over, and that weekend, actually I went to Ohio. So that weekend, the UFC fights were in Ohio, in Columbus, and Michelle Watterson was the main event. And Michelle's a friend, and her husband come over and visit a lot, and they're nice people. Shout out to Josh and Michelle. And she had an injury, and she had to pull out of her fight. So I got front row tickets to Columbus, Ohio, that I don't really want to go to now because the reason that I was going there no longer exists.
Right.
But it's hard to sell front row tickets on short notice in Columbus. If it was at Madison Square Garden, if it was Vegas, it's easy to sell that.
Yeah.
Columbus, not so much. So I'm like, well, I guess we're going to Columbus. And I have to say something very unflattering because I never do this, but I drink too much. I didn't drink a lot, but I probably had like five alcoholic beverages. And that would have been fine if I would have went to sleep, but I had to go pick up Chuck at the airport at noon. So after going to the fights in Columbus, and they ended kind of late because it's on the East Coast.
Right.
Then I get to drive back to Illinois, and a few-hour car ride. So basically, took a nap in the car and slept maybe 3 hours in a bed, and now I got to go grapple with Chuck Liddell. And Chuck's a very nice man. I like Chuck. We've done several things together. He's a great guy, but he's not a gentle guy,
Okay.
So I don't know if you ever spent time on wrestling with him or training with him, but he's not a gentle dude.
I wouldn't imagine him to be, yeah.
He can't help himself. It's just, he's very friendly to sit around and talk with him, but if you go train together, he trains hard, So, I just got fucking, a little hungover, sleep deprived, and just getting smashed by Chuck. And, I'm 4 months in. I have no real skills yet. And, I had bruises for about 12 days. And, my body really hurt. I have a hard time like standing up. And you know, maybe you find this related. Maybe you're too tough. But I find for myself that, you know, it's really easy for me to be a tough guy during the day when you have a little momentum in the day and, you know, something hurts a little bit, you're like, whatever. But then there's moments at night when you're like sleeping and you're just trying to sleep, you know, and you roll over and you're like something hurts so much it wakes you up. You're like,
Yeah.
Ow.
Yeah.
Ow.
I'm not too tough. I've experienced this, yes.
Well, I was experiencing a lot of that week.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, what in the hell are you doing? Like, you don't have to do this. Like, you know, this was like a hobby that I picked up because I thought to myself, well, you know, I made a lot of money and I got kind of out of shape in the process. And I'm like, I have more money than I ever needed for, you know, what do I want to do with my time? And I'm like, well, I might as well get in shape. And I was always a little interested in martial arts, so let me go play with that, you know? So I was kind of having that debate with myself, like, what is wrong with you? And what are you doing? Like, you don't have to do this to yourself. And then I thought to myself, you know, there's people out there that are dumber than me and, you know, much less motivated, that they have a black belt in jiu-jitsu or they have, you know, good striking skills, et cetera, or, you know, the equivalent of black belt level striking skills. And I thought, so the only reason, you touched on this earlier, I'm like, the only reason that I wouldn't have a black belt or multiple black belts if I wanted them is that, you know, I gave up somewhere along the way. If I just, you know, kept that momentum and kept chip away at it, keep those habits, there's no reason I wouldn't have a black belt in a few years.
Oh, yeah.
And then that was the thought I had with myself. I'm like, fuck, all right.
Yep.
And, you know, after that, I never had another crybaby moment about it. I never had, you know, you have those little self-talk moments early on where you're still being a little soft.
Yeah. You're questioning your decisions. Yeah.
When I made the firm decision, like a real decision, I'm like, all right, like, there's no reason I wouldn't have my black belt if I just keep chipping away at it. And a few months later, I had my blue belt, and then I got my purple belt, and we're, you know, halfway there in theory. I think it's an important thing to make that decision, to make a commitment to yourself. Is like, you know, all right, I'm going to do the thing. Done talking about it or daydreaming about it. Like, you know, all right, I'm committing to the process that I'm going to do the thing now.
Yeah, committing to the process. I remember, like, you're just talking about the pains, and I just remember my very first day of training. It was literally the hardest thing I ever did. And I think the guy that was training me didn't want to train me. Like, at the time, I was a hellion. You know, I was a little rebel. I came from the entertainment industry, so I was a dancer, and he just did not take me serious whatsoever. And I was like, please, I promise if you teach me how to fight, I'll take it serious. So he just put me through the hardest possible thing I'd ever experienced in my entire freaking life. I definitely threw up. I almost passed out about 4 different times. You know, this man had to, like, hold me to put me to the door because I was like hyperventilating. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, this is dumb. I'm not happy right now. I hate this. This is the hardest thing I've ever done. And I wanted to quit. I really did want to quit in that moment. And this is my very first time ever trying martial arts. And I said to myself, I stopped myself right there. Because I was like, this is not going to be one more thing that you tell yourself, I could have, but I didn't want to. I could have been great at this, but I just didn't feel like it. I was like, I'm either never doing this again because this is so hard, or I'm gonna be serious about this. Like, there was no in between. There wasn't a playing portion for me because it was literally the hardest thing I'd ever done in my entire life. And every day it is still challenging. I've been fighting for 13, 14 years now, and every day I make it a new challenge. I'm learning something new. Like, there's always something more to grasp and to create, and it keeps it interesting and fun, and it's still hard. Like, I still struggle, and I love that part of it. Like, I'm never bored with being an athlete. It's my favorite thing to do, and I'm like, I'm blessed that I get to do it, you know, because it is so difficult and it's challenging and it's rewarding. Like, you never feel better than after you're done with a hard workout and you're like, oh my gosh, I did that. Like, I can't believe that I did that. And it may be the extreme part of what we do, but it's also the most rewarding.
Making a firm commitment to your success is super important. I think people don't do that. They're too distracted. I'll do it later. I'll do this. You know, touching on what we said earlier, they get this thought of like, oh, I'll just do this other thing first. I'll do this first. If you don't have a real goal, and you don't have a real deadline, and you don't have a real accountability, you have no plan. You're literally just you're going to be a failure. That's the default outcome is not like a palace in the sky or a nice mansion or whatever fancy life circumstances you might wish for yourself. That's not the default outcome. The default outcome is like a room temperature pile of shit. Perhaps with flies, right? And if you want something better than that, you have to make a decision and a commitment that you're going to take action, and you're going to find something within you to impose yourself on the world in such a way that you've earned more than that. And if not, just be poor, stay dumb, stay poor. And somebody out there's they went to college, cool. I got 3 degrees myself. That's nice. I went to college too. But they went to college and they got a somewhat above average income. They make 80 grand in their house or 120 grand in their house instead of 60 like the average peasant. And so, that doesn't apply to me, Derek. I make double the normal income. I make double or triple. So, how much is that? What are you going to do at $100,000 today? What are you going to do at 100 grand? And you got to show up to work for 60 hours or more per week to get that kind of money?
Yeah.
Or you could just work harder now. You could just front load the work and, create a better circumstance for yourself. So you either have to have some entrepreneurial income or some investment income. And, without one or both of those, I think a person's really in trouble. Then you're reliant on earned income for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I believe that earned income is the opportunity to go do more with it. It's not the destination. And a lot of people stop there. They stop at, I am comfortable, I have food on the table, I have a roof over my head, and I have a comfortable bed to sleep in, and I have some clothes that are all right. And they're comfortable with that, but that's not the destination. That's just the opportunity to be able to create something even better and greater and bigger with that. And I mean, we don't know other people's ambitions, but man, I don't want to stop there. Like, I want to create greatness because I know that's what I'm worthy of. That's my value. And I bring a higher value than my current standings. And I'm always constantly reaching for that. So, yeah. One day I will be great, you guys. Stay tuned.
Well, you're doing all the right things. You're great already in some ways, and you're doing all the right things that, and also some perspective is you without some unforeseen circumstance, you're probably going to be alive another 50-something, 60 years. So
I'm definitely healthy.
You got a lot of time left in there to, continue to compound those gains. And so great foundation, strong psychologist, fit, feisty and perseverant. I think you'd agree with those. Strong skill sets, good following base. You got a significant enough group of people that are really interested in your life, and that's growing rapidly. A few more after this interview. So, those are really good foundation. Those are all nice assets to have that are not accidental,
Yes.
Some dumbass at home, they'll play a game of like, it's easy for you because they don't understand what happened before that,
Oh, yeah.
You're already really fit and you got your black belt, but it's easy for you. Were you born with it? Is that just genetics and you're born with a black belt?
Yeah.
And, a good physique? It's like, no, you got to go work on that every day. So every day you got to go chip away and and maintain that. It's like, and it gets harder. I'm 44 right now, so this not like, is that going to be easier when I'm 54? Is it going to be easier when I'm 64?
Man, you're kicking ass right now is what you're doing. Yes, and speaking of like timelines and ages, it's like as an athlete, I know I have right now to be a champion athlete. I can't do that part for my whole entire life, but I can always do business. I'm always learning, growing, and evolving. I can always make more money and create more opportunity, but I only have this timeline, this window of opportunity to create being a world champion UFC fighter athlete. Like, that is now. That is not going to be happening, 20 years down the line when I could still be doing business, real estate, investing, all of that.
I think it's smart. You're learning about those things and using your current circumstances to build better circumstances. I think that's something that you and I are both very good at, of and a point that I'd like to make to them is that, wherever you're at, start there. We touched on that. But, you have to take inventory of like, what are your current assets and liabilities? And you might have more liabilities than assets. And, progress, if you're in a bad spot right now, most of you are in a better spot than this, but, I think there is certainly a time in my life, and I believe there are times in your life where you'd look around and like there are more negative things than positive things going on, and progress might look like just cutting out some of the negative things of like, let's get away from some people that are not going to enhance my future circumstances, that are not congruent with my future goals. So moving away from negative influences is probably a good start.
Oh, 1,000,000%, yes. Moving away from negative influences, positive self-talk, and I think just like being gracious with yourself. Like, be kind to where you are. Don't compare yourself to the people who are 20 chapters down the road that have already done the hard work. Like, you are where you are today, and that's okay. Give yourself some forgiveness. Like, yes, this is where I am, but I know that I want more, and that's okay, and I love myself today. And I love myself enough to want to do more for myself for my tomorrow. And I know that it's going to take some hard work, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, let's dig into that a little bit, because I have mixed feelings about it. I don't think it's right or wrong. I think whatever gets a result, that's the right thing for that person, So I don't have any, whatever gets you a result, do that. But in my own life, I have more positive self-talk now, and people talk about that like it's, like it's an important thing. And I think it's a nice bonus, but a lot of things a lot of the motivation that I had to get things done was a very negative motivation, is a fear-based motivation, certainly through my teenage years, certainly through my 20s. And, I was probably about your age when I woke up and I thought like, I'll talk about that first part first, and then I'll make that transition. The first part is a lot of, if I didn't feel like doing something, and, there's a lot of very harsh language, like, okay, so, get up and do the thing you're supposed to do,
I say that to myself all the time. Don't be a bitch.
All the time. Yeah. I still have that thought. But, a thought I had all the time earlier was like, I had this saying, like, are you behaving like a champ or a chump right now? Meaning, are you engaging in a behavior that would lead to a champion type outcome? Or are you just doing some normal people shit that would just lead to like an average type outcome? And I would have said that to myself, way more than 10,000 times. Are you behaving like all those little micro decisions in your day? The 100 times a day when you're making a little micro decision that you're supposed to do the thing, and you streamline these over time, and maybe that's a dozen times a day now, and it used to be 200 times a day or something. But those little micro decisions where you're like, oh, am I going to go do the thing that I know I'm supposed to do right now, or am I going to procrastinate for 2 more minutes? And like, let's not waste the 2 minutes. So a lot of those are habits now that I got rid of that. I'm like. And I still might have that conversation with several times a day, but again, maybe that's 200 times a day right now in your life, and you can get that down to 5 or 10 later. But it's important to have some mechanism or accountability. If you can say nice words to yourself and go do the thing in a happy, flowery way, that's great. But what's better than not doing the thing is to say it in a very mean way to yourself and say, like, hey, you're being a bitch right now. You're behaving like a loser, not a winner. And if you engage in losing behaviors, you're going to stay a loser. And maybe just talking about reality, that reality shouldn't be a controversial topic, despite whatever you might see elsewhere in social media or mainstream media. Reality shouldn't be a controversial topic. And to be able to look at objective reality instead of some perverted political correct nonsense of got to talk nice to everybody, be nice to everybody, be nice to yourself. No, some people are losers. And if you don't engage in behaviors that are going to enhance your future, then you're going to be one of those losers. Because plenty of other people are willing to work hard. There's enough other people that are ambitious enough that they're going to pass you right by pretty effortlessly, and they're going to make a little bit of progress. Well, you're procrastinating. And pretty soon you're not going to be able to, people that you're spending time with right now, you won't even have access to those people in the future because you didn't keep up. You didn't do your part. And probably insulted them on their way, furthermore. Probably insulted them on their way to, how many times has somebody insulted you on your way or like tried to like shame you for doing better? Like, oh, you think you're better than me? Or, oh, you think you're better than us now? Or I'm like, No, man, remember the 50 times I invited you with?
Right.
Remember the 50 times I encouraged you, hey, come do this thing with me?
Yeah.
And you refused to do it? And now, yeah, no, I can't spend time with you anymore. That's correct. And I'll say so bluntly and shamelessly. But remember the 50 times that I asked you to come with me and let's go do it together? And you were busy smoking weed at that time and doing that much? Like, okay, like, don't be mad.
Yeah, we made different decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
I love what you're saying about like talking shit to yourself to get it done. Like, and there are different approaches. Mine, I'm so fucking aggressive that like I'll start twirling if I go down the wrong tube, right? So I have to be very cautious with how I speak to myself because where I, like my positions were extremely dark. So I am very kind to myself. And I think about like, I'll go to like a sauna situation, right? Like if you're in a sauna for like an extended period of time, and I mean, I'm talking like I'll sit in a sauna for 45 minutes and just die in there. I can't be thinking about how fucking hot it is and how I'm like, oh my God, I'm burning up. Like, damn you, like, you fucking pussy, like, just stay in here. Like, you got this. Like, don't be fat. Like, you stay in the sauna. Like, that's gonna kill me. Like, that's really gonna like make me not want to sit in that sauna. So I have to create a positive mental environment for myself to find my peace to be able to stay in there. So I'm like, things I'll say to myself like, Vanessa, you're amazing. You can do this. This is nothing for you. Like you can create this. Like I know you got this. Like girl, you are so fucking strong. Like you're incredible. You're a damn superhero. You know, and it's like I build myself versus breaking myself because we're already broken enough by the outside world and environment. We're already broken enough by our circumstances, by our current positions. We don't need to break ourselves even more. So I'm going to do the best job I can do by being a peaceful environment internally. And then that's obviously what I portray. You say I'm very complimentary, but it's because I'm at peace with me, you know, and I get to give that to everybody. That's a gift that I have in here. And it's a gift that I get to throw into people's faces. But that's my place, you know, and I know that everybody has different motivations. And your place might be you talking that shit. You need to be talking that shit sometimes. But also be kind to yourself in the process of where you are today, because you're not going to get to tomorrow if you can't get through this moment. So just whatever that is for you, you know, like find that. It might be talking shit, it might be being kind, but you're gonna find it what it is for you.
If I have to be in a hot environment, then I think to myself of like, oh, I try to think of the most positive way that doesn't contradict reality. So I don't want to get, if it's ridiculous, my brain won't accept the information. You know, if it's too bubbly or too cute. So I'm just like, well, what's the nicest thing I could say about this situation that's objectively true and not contrary to reality or you know, what I'm really experiencing. So, and then once in a while, if I can make a little dark humor, that helps lighten the mood as well. So if I have to be in a hot environment, I might think of like, oh, this is going to be useful. This is like helping you acclimate for when you die and go to hell. so and then I can have a little mischievous giggle, you know?
Yeah, I like it.
And then it just
like
makes things a lot lighter for me, you know?
I like it. I fully agree with that. Make it fun along the way.
The transition point that I mentioned that I should go back to, and this might be useful for some of you shit talkers, is, you know, there was a time where I woke up in my early 30s, and I thought, and you know, you're a little beat up from, you know, self-abuse for 15 years, say, like, you know, get up and do the thing that, you know, all the things that guys, you know, productive guys say to themselves that are kind of harsh, and some tough women too. And I thought, you know, I'm going to do the damn thing. At that time, I had a lot of experience doing the thing. I had a lot of behavioral habits, or, you know, habits. I had established habits, productive habits. And I thought, you know what? You can trust yourself to do the thing. You're going to do the thing. You've been doing the damn thing. You're going to keep doing the thing. You don't have to be mean to yourself in that area anymore, you know? Yeah. And that kind of switched that model to like, well, you might as well look at things in the most happy or positive way possible without lying to yourself or, you know, saying things are better than they are. So I thought you should favor I thought as a general philosophy, you should favor, like, what's the best thing you could say about this situation, or, you know, something that's optimistic but still consistent with reality. That you don't start getting into fantasy land. Because I think when I hear all this, you know, delusional affirmation shit that people push of like,
Oh, yeah.
you're a special little you deserve it because you were born on Earth. Like, no, you deserve shit, and that's what you're going to get if you tell yourself pretty things and you don't make any effort. It's fine to tell yourself pretty things if you're making the effort.
Yeah, if you're like literally in the fucking fire. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you can say nice things to yourself while you're doing the damn thing.
Yeah.
If you're not doing the thing and you just want to sit around and say nice words, then you don't expect much outcome. You know, the outcome's not going to be there.
Oh, big facts. Big facts. You gotta go. You gotta get your hands dirty, and that's another thing too. Like you gotta be willing to get your hands dirty. Like you gotta be willing to sweat. You gotta be willing to work hard. You gotta be willing to look like shit. Like, you know, you're nice and showered up right now. I'm very primped at the moment, but man, a few hours ago I was sweating, growling, throwing stuff. And if you look at my Instagram, like that's what I'm doing all day long. Like it's not fucking pretty. Like the process isn't cute. You just get a cute outcome at the end of it, but you gotta go through the fire. You gotta do the work. You gotta get nitty gritty with it sometimes. You gotta hurt. You gotta wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh my gosh, my shoulder, don't roll to that side. Damn, dude. you gotta do that. I've got pictures of my face just completely mangled. Like I've been through the fire and I've been through the heat, and I think that is why I'm kinder to myself, because I've been there.
I had a conversation with a friend recently, is somebody that you know. Maybe I shouldn't say his name for his privacy, but he lost a fight recently. He's had an amazing career, and he's young enough. He's still going to have an amazing career. He's made a huge name for himself. A lot of people know who he is. And you know, we were talking about his last fight. You know, that's a sensitive topic for some people, and
yeah.
as you know, and probably
I've lost before,
probably
not
even,
undefeated.
Probably even you know, being a professional fighter, if you're talking to another professional fighter, you're a little sensitive in how you communicate with them about a situation, or you might have different layers of that if you know somebody extremely well or you don't, or, you know. And so, you know, I try to be, I don't want to say anything that might hurt somebody's feelings in that context, but it's, you know, we're also close enough that we could be honest with each other. So he brought up the topic, and we were talking about the topic. And I'm like, no, I don't think you should have taken that fight, and because this, and that. And I don't think you should have, and I don't want to say too much about it because I want to respect his privacy. But, you know, he did a couple things he had great momentum, a couple things were going fantastic. And we talked about that. And I said, well, you know what? We were discussing, the key idea to convey here was we were discussing, like, when you have a up moment like that where you're like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. It's probably also useful to be a good friend to yourself, which doesn't mean to lie to yourself or to say a bunch of flowery shit. But, you know, instead of beating yourself up about something that you're like, I probably shouldn't have done that, you know, probably useful to be like, well, you know, just go back to taking inventory. What are the good things in our situation? What are our good circumstances right now? What do the assets and liabilities look like? What's the balance sheet of your life for accountant talk? What's the balance sheet of your life look like? And what are the assets and liabilities? And what's the best thing we could do from here? And so, you know, take the lessons from anything negative that happens. Don't ignore that. A lot of people want to ignore or suppress their failures. And I kind of wallow in my failures a little bit, where I want to stay there and feel shitty. I want to feel shitty for a little while, not for long, but like a day or three. You know, I want to feel kind of shitty and be like, you know, all right, dumbass, what are the things that you did that were stupid that you shouldn't do again? What are the things that you could have predicted that you didn't, that you weren't paying attention to? So what are the things that are important to pay attention to in the future so you don't replicate a similar failure? You know, and then I'll give myself permission to go do new things and find a different way to be a failure again. But I don't mind failing. I don't mind that at all. Like, I mean, every successful person had plenty of setbacks and foibles along the way, and that doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. If it hurts your feelings to look stupid once in a while or feel stupid, like, you can't make any progress. You know?
No, yeah, you'll never make anything. You'll never do anything. Mm-hmm. You'll just sit in your room and twiddle your thumbs because you're too scared of failing. Like, everybody fails at something sometime. You know, it's unfortunate, but I'd rather fail in the gym 1,000,000 times than fail in the octagon. And even that might happen. Like, that's not a guarantee, you know? I love what you said about trying to be kind with them in the moment post failure, because the reality of it is that it's already happened. Like, there's no point in continuing to be rude to yourself and firing yourself from the inside when the action has happened already. So now what do you do moving forward? You know, how do you create something from the momentum that already happened? The unfortunate momentum, because that's a loss, you know, and it's a painful one, especially when someone's punching you in the face. It's physically painful and even more so emotionally painful. But there is overcoming on the other side of it. Like, life goes on after an octagon loss. We wake up the next morning like everybody else. It just hurts emotionally.
Yeah, there's a couple people that I know that are, you know, amazing fighters, and I see they're super sensitive. You know, they have a loss or two, and I see like it really hurts them, and I say other people treat them bad, and you know, I've certainly seen that where they're uncertain about our relationship or something afterwards. That there's because it's not because of me. It's because I'm not a fair weather friend. I don't need fair weather friends. I don't like most people. I don't pretend to like most people. I don't trust somebody who says, "Oh, I like everybody. Everybody's great." Well, you're stupid if you believe you haven't had much life experience. You haven't been paying attention. I don't trust that person's judgment. I'd never want to be that business partner with that person. I don't want to invest in anything they're doing. I don't trust them. But you know, if somebody's my friend, they'll be my friend, and you know, if they're good times or bad times, as long as they're making an effort. Now, if they go get a drug addiction and you know, masturbate in a public place, it's going to be hard for me to find that relatable and want to hang out with them much in the future. But if they're still making an effort to do the right things, I don't mind if they had a couple setbacks or something of like, you know, their core identity or values or, you know, personality is intact, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because none of us are perfect,
Yeah.
you know.
So, you know, I've had that situation where I got, you know, people told me some pretty private things, and I never repeat those things. I'm very respectful that way. But you know, that's a bummer that somebody that's, you know, former world champions that are high level, you know, tough people, and they second guess their value because their identity is so tied up in that sport, you know. And you understand what I'm saying.
100% I do, and I think that's so important to talk about. You know, your identity in what it is that you're doing. And I think, unfortunately, some people tie their identities to the wrong things. And maybe that's why it's hard for them to change and be better, because their identities are tied to this current situation that they're in. But like, as a fighter, like, we need to have the value in who we are as people, not just in what we do, and in everything, you know, you with your success. Like, not you, but like, there are people who create greatness. And when things crash, definitely not you. Definitely not you. But they create greatness, and then when they crash, they lose that, and they can't get it back because they've lost their identities. Now, if you know who the fuck you are, nothing can ever be taken away from you emotionally. You can always create more greatness behind it. A fighter that loses, if they have a strong identity in who they are as a person, they can come back, whoop some ass, and continue on their journey to greatness, versus being beaten up by life, beating themselves up, and then losing that and losing all of it because they can't get their footing again. I don't tie myself in the identity of being an athlete. I tie myself in who I am as a person. And I know that I'm valuable, and you can't take that away from me. I've earned that with every single day that I've shown up for myself in every area of my life, in and outside of fighting.
A very key thing you said right at the end there is, you know, if you don't show up for your own success, why would anybody else care to show up for your success? And what you said, you know, at the beginning of our chat today about you have to earn the right to have access to higher quality teachers, higher quality coaches. It's like everybody wants to hang out with those people. Everybody wants to hang out with those people. So
everybody wants to hang out with you, homie.
You got to be. People tend to love me or hate me.
Hey, I love
I'm fine
you.
Either way.
I
I'm
think
good
you're
about
great.
it either way. If you don't have a few haters in life, nobody knows who you are, by the way. If you don't have a few haters, nobody knows who you are. Because if you're dealing with anything with the public, so for those of you that they're sincerely ambitious and you're going to do anything at all with the public, man, the public will not treat you fairly. The public will not treat you fairly. Like all your good deeds, mostly go unmentioned. Anything that's slightly negative is going to be outrageously amplified and perverted to something that doesn't resemble the actual things that happened. People are not going to treat you fairly. So
that's true.
Just get used to that. If things go well in her sport, if she wins, she got lucky. If she loses, she's a piece of shit. And like look at the comments. Pick. If you watch any sport, but especially the fighting, in any of the UFC stuff, anybody with a big name, they win. There'll be somebody there saying, "Oh, you got lucky. Good genetics." Good genetics and 20 years of training.
Oh yeah.
Good genetics and 20 years
being a female, they're always like, "Oh, you only got there because you're pretty, so people gave you more attention." And I'm like, "Oh yeah. Just let's not even talk about all the hard work that I had to do to show up here."
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, all the wear and tear and injuries and tough days. And
and questioning myself and what am I doing? And holy shit, I'm so smart. I could be doing other things. Why am I getting punched in the face? But here I am. And
yeah. So it's amazing. If you're dealing with anything with the public, you have to have a pretty thick skin.
Tough skin,
and, if not, you're going to cry yourself to sleep and give up and just go do some average shit. So, if you do something significant with the public, there'll be entire news networks, say you're running for president. There'll be entire news networks that they make their living talking bad about you. And so that's you're going to have a lot of pressure and a lot of scrutiny, and you're not going to be treated fairly. So just come to terms with that. People are not going to act with integrity. People are not going to say things that are truthful and honest about you. And that's just life. That's just life. So what Vanessa said earlier is like, you really have to have a significant, self-awareness of who you are. And I've created a little handbook. It's about 68 pages or something. I call it the 3 sacred questions. And that whole workbook is about what kind of man am I, or what kind of person am I, what kind of life do I want to live, and who would be the right companions for that life. So that entire, nearly 70 pages is just around those 3 questions of, and I'll just say it for myself, what kind of man am I? Which is not necessarily a noble question, by the way. There's some animalistic, like, who are you really? What are your real desires and wants in life? Which is not something that's necessarily mainstream friendly. Depends who you are, depends who you are. But is that at the most selfish level, who are you really and who do you want to be? How do you want to live your life in the most selfish possible level? And and again, secondly, so what kind of man am I? What kind of life do I want to live? So the details of that, of the details of your maybe hedonism or whatever sort of life you might want to live. I'd say I'm a long-term rational hedonist. Maybe that's too much philosophy talk, but I'm not a hedonist.
And I'm a positivist, or however that word is said. Oh my gosh, I love this point right here. And this is so important. We need to touch on this because people will see someone like you who's created the success that you've created with your mindset and say, I need to be with your type of mindset, or they'll see people like me and like I'm super positive and happy and I turn everything into golden rainbows and butterflies, and they think that they need to think the way that I think, and it's not true. So whatever workbook you have, I'd personally love to take a look at it, because your truth is your freaking truth. Like, that's who you are, and that's how you're gonna create whatever it is that you want to create, is by knowing yourself and doing that mirror work and understanding what your values are, who you truly are at your core, not when other people are watching. There was a quote that I read in a book, Think Like a Monk, and it said, I'm not who I want to be, I'm not who you want me to be. Or I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am.
That's from a psychologist named Fritz Perls.
So, yes. And I love that, because when you're in a room by yourself, who are you truly? And mirror work is so important for you to create your personal brand of success, because it's not going to look the way that his pages looked. It's not going to look the way that mine did. It's going to look the way that you create them to be. And you can't do that if you're trying to mimic somebody else's success from the hard mirror work that they've done for themselves.
I totally agree. And I created it with that thought in mind, is that, I don't tell anybody else how to live their life, but I do tell them to be, self-critical of like, live your life with intention of, you can't set a goal without having a pretty clear understanding of who you are and what you want, really, who are you really, what do you really want in life? How do you set a goal that provides actual long-term satisfaction? If you worked hard because somebody told you you're supposed to want this or that, but it's not really your goal, are you really going to give it that 100% effort day after day? You can't.
Yeah.
It's not even what you really want. It's what your mommy told you, or what television told you you're supposed to want, or you're supposed to agree to abide by other social constructs or say things that you don't believe publicly. I don't do any of that shit. I don't give a shit if somebody likes me or not. I don't like most people. I don't think everybody's supposed to like me. I don't say that in a mean way. That makes some people a little squirmish, or no, man, you don't like most people either. It's just the truth.
It's
true. Like, I don't want to spend time. There's more than 99% of the world's population. I'd pay money to avoid spending time with them, and I do. I do.
I agree with you, and I'm a super positive person, and I don't like everybody.
That's just real. I don't think everybody's supposed to like me either. So if somebody's offended by something I say, I'm like, all right, like. If you hate my philosophy, well, fine. Don't be a critical thinker. Don't create wealth. Like, stay poor and dumb. If that's what you want, go be poor. It won't hurt my feelings if you stay poor. I wasn't talking to you. Go be poor. Go make a hater blog and say, Derek Moneyberg said mean things. And, all right, cool.
You could literally Google Mother Teresa is bad, and there are web pages just filled with that. Like, it doesn't. Yeah, people are going to talk whatever they talk, and we're going to be exactly who we are. Period.
Yeah, the people that know me, really, the people that I spend time with that know me, we're great together. I keep my word consistently. If I say I'm going to do something, for sure I'm going to do it. The most important time to keep your word is when something changes and it becomes very inconvenient. And I'll still show up and keep my word. Mm-hmm. And I probably won't talk about it at all. I probably won't even mention to them the inconvenience that I might have had to endure just to do what I said I was going to do. Just the important thing is that you're consistent, you're reliable. So anybody that knows me well, that spends time with me, knows that. I'm going to show up consistently. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do anything I said I was going to do. I'm always a little grumpy. I'm always a little grumpy and a little cheery at the same time. So my moods are very stable. I'm always a little grumpy and a little cheery.
I like that. I've never heard that before, and you're right. You do exemplify that.
I am.
I like it.
But I'm very consistent in my moods. I'm very reliable, and I don't pretend to be anybody that I'm not. And I don't think you should, to the point that she was making a few moments ago. I think that's very important, that you have to think about, who are you? What sort of life do you want to live? And then that third element I'll bring up again, who are the right companions? Who are the allies and teachers and coaches and friends and romantic partners and so on? Who are the people that would be best for your life? And then that part, you can be a little grandiose in your, I want to be around this person, this type of person. It might not be a specific person, but this type of person, this type of person, that specific person. That's great, but now you got to hold yourself to that standard.
Yes.
Because if you're not that person, if you're not their best option, you can make a list of who would be your best options, but if you're not their best option, that shit's not going to happen. So now you have to hold yourself to that standard. I don't keep my word because I'm a nice guy all the time. I'm not always a nice guy. I'm not nice to everybody. I'm not nice to people that aren't nice to me. I don't give a about them. I'm really quite indifferent about most people, but I'm a very good, loyal friend to the people that I'm friends with. I'm a very good friend. I'm very loyal, maybe too loyal sometimes.
Yeah, amen.
I'm very consistent. I'm very reliable, but I can't be that for everybody in the world. So I don't mind if somebody doesn't like me, and you shouldn't either. You have to be willing to tolerate that criticism. And I think it's important to not
if
take
everybody
advice.
likes you, then you're probably being a little fake too.
Very fake, I think.
Yeah.
Or you haven't thought through your values much. I think it's very important to not take advice from people who don't have the same goals. So I remember I was on an airplane maybe 2 years ago. And this guy, actually I was on my way to Vegas. And this guy sits next to me, and he's, some corporate kid. He's, early 30s, corporate guy in his little clown suit and, kind of stressed out, smells a little bad, too much coffee and a little too much adrenaline, not enough sleep type of vibe, Okay. And he's working his ass off. It's a 4-hour flight, and he's working. I see he's a little stressed out and a little fidgety, and But he seems like my impression was that he's a relatively smart, educated person trying to get some shit done on the flight. And the airline, the stewardess or flight attendant, whatever they call them today, makes a comment to him, but I hope you get to enjoy your vacation and don't work too hard. Don't work too hard.
As he's working too hard. Yeah.
I don't know that he's working too hard. Maybe he didn't work hard enough before. Maybe he's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. And I seen he was a little like, ugh, because he kind of wants to be nice to her or be agreeable, but he's also like, bitch, I got to get shit done. It's like that kind of a feeling. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of interpretation here. That was my interpretation of what I'm observing. And I said to him, I said, is it your goal? This is the first words we said. We sat next to each other for 3 hours before either of us said a word. But I seen he was like a little more stressed out about that. And I said, is it your goal to be a flight attendant in the future? And he just kind of looked at me funny. I said, then don't take advice from people that have different goals than you. Mm. Just focus, do what you're supposed to do. You'll be well rewarded. If you keep working like that, you're going to be very well rewarded later. Your future self will thank you for the work you're putting in now. And he kind of lit up. We didn't talk much. He said a few, thank you, and he's like very warm and kind of emotional for him. But I kind of stored that away in my own head because that wasn't like something I had teed up in my head. It was sort of a sincere improv statement. It's like don't take advice from people that have different goals than you. Your future self will thank you for the hard work you're doing. Yeah. I think that's really important. So if I get criticized by somebody who, their values are to like smoke weed, play video games, earn an average outcome, or earn an average wage, like it makes sense to me why they find me unrelatable. Mm-hmm. I find them unrelatable too.
Yes.
Sounds like a terrible life to me. So, if they find me unrelatable of like, oh, he talks down to me or he's smug to me or he's, all right, let's go be poor. Go be average. It's okay. But I'm not telling you to, I'm not telling them to be, everybody should be a multimillionaire. Everybody should work like I have. Everybody should work like you have. I'm not telling them that. But some of them come to me and they say, I want to be a multimillionaire. And I'm like, well, all right, but this is the shit you'll have to do, just to be clear.
Yeah.
This is, you're going to have to change everything in your life. You're going to have to alienate half of the people or more that you're spending time with right now. You're not going to be spending time with them in a couple of years. Mm-hmm.
This reminds me of, and I say this to myself often, where I have to die to rebirth in the new me. Yeah, I've died to myself many times and recreated, and then just completely wiped clean and recreated. You couldn't believe the human that I used to be. I promise you. Like, I was an exotic entertainer. At some points, I was homeless. At some points, I was just wild and crazy. And I've had to die to those people to become the human that I am. And I continue to do that. I continue to do that work. And pieces of me have to get left behind for me to be able to go to different heights. You can't drag all that baggage with you. You have to become somebody new at different stages.
Maybe it's a good place to put a summary statement in there of that. I wish I could think of his name. It's Herodotus, something like this. There's an old Greek philosopher guy.
Opa.
And he talked about this, what you just said. He talked about this, in the general era 2,400 years ago, general era of Plato, Aristotle. He said that you have to choose to remain the person you are at the cost of your potential for the person that you could become.
That's good.
Or you have to choose to abandon your current circumstances and the people around you to be the person that you know that you can be. Mm. And he said that it's not possible that you'll never make it to your potential dragging that weight of those people that you're with now, and they're not going to come with you. That you have to choose to lose those people to be your best self, or stay there amongst them and be much less than you could have become. That it's not possible to bring them with. So I'm paraphrasing, but that general thought.
I love it.
Is from your country, thousands of years ago, at least 2,400 years ago.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Yeah, it's true. It's true, and we also have to give those respect to other people too. If you get left behind, hey man, and it's not even in a disrespectful way. I remember a very close friend of mine, specifically, I'm not going to say who, but I literally gave her the advice where I was like, babe, I love you. Like, we are on this adventure right now, like, as a friend. I was like, I love you. We're on this adventure right now. And I understand if you have to keep going and I have to get left out of this part of your journey. Like, you have to give respect to people who are creating greatness, and you can't do that if you don't have that personal perspective. You know, like, you got to know that you're going to drop people off along the way to get to where you're trying to go. And when other people are rising, encouraging them to do the same. Like, yeah, you gotta love people enough to let them live. You can't be holding them back from their greatness and their potentials just because you're being so selfish that you want them to stay in your life forever. Like, yeah, that's great. And hopefully they'll say hi to you and love you along the way. But man, they gotta go. They gotta go keep living and doing their best life. Yeah.
Well said.
Thanks.
What's next for Vanessa?
Right now.
You got great momentum in your career at UFC.
Yes.
You're getting pretty serious about a lot of business things. Mm-hmm. You've gone through half of the 10 Commandments of Wealth course.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about it so far? Somebody who's curious about it but doesn't know if it's for them, who is it for and who is it not for? It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. Who is it for and who is it not for?
It's not for everybody, but it is for everyone. And I say that because, like, you may not be wanting to reach your greatest potential, but if you do want to create any sort of greatness, like, you have to have a vast knowledge of the other things that are going on in the world. I've noticed that with the 10 Commandments, the parts that I've gotten through so far, it teaches you a little bit of everything. So it teaches you, like, the things that you didn't think maybe you need right now, but you're going to want to know that later on down the road. It is still important because everything's kind of connected, you know? Social media is connected with drop shipping, which is connected with real estate, which is connected with the market, which is connected with stocks, and, you know, businesses, and having your own business and creating your own LLCs and tax brackets and all of this. Like, these are things that they may seem boring and mindless, but it's necessary for your growth later on down the road, because you'd rather have the knowledge now and not need it than need the knowledge and not have access to it.
Regarding the hard work elements, is like, you know, if you want to be in the top 1%, you know, by definition, you're going to have to do things that 99% of people are too lazy or too stupid to do. And if you don't want to do that, most people don't want to, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Most people don't want to. I don't mind if you stay poor. Somebody's got to make my coffee. When I take out my phone and I go to the rideshare app and I summon a peasant and I say, you know, peasant, take me to the 5-star hotel for my penthouse suite. Somebody's going to drive me there. Maybe it's you. Maybe that's how we'll meet. You be my driver. But, you know, if that's your full potential, okay. But, you know, I do think that a normal person who might be watching this, you know, probably you do have the potential to do a lot more. You may or may not do it. I'm not trying to convince you or persuade you to be wealthy or live a better life. Stay dumb if you want. Stay poor if you want. Stay mediocre. Most people stay kind of in the middle. It's okay with me. But for the few of you, they're like, you know, I at least got to be in that top 1%. Well, then you're going to have to do some things. You're going to have to, you know, outsmart and or outwork 99% of the others. The great news is this: most of them aren't trying very hard.
This is true.
Most of them aren't doing much at all. The bar is very low. The bar is very low that if you're doing okay already and you want to do better, you can probably make it to that top 1%. No problem.
Isn't that so crazy to think about?
Think about what you've done already in fighting. I'm sorry to speak over you. Think of what you've done already in fighting. Like, you're not like a top 1% fighter. You're like, it's not like 1 in 100. It's not like 1% of the world's population has the skill set to do what you can do. All right? So, you know, that'd be like...
But I am in the top 1% of the world.
What I mean to say, however, but there's 8 billion people in the world.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's 80 million. 1% of 8 billion would be 80 million. Are there 80 million people that have your skill set in MMA? Hell no.
I'm in the top 0.1%.
That's right.
However those zeros are, yes.
No,
Yeah.
but
No,
there's
it's
several.
true.
There's
Yeah.
several zeros in there.
Yeah.
After that decimal, it's point. 0.0000.
Yeah.
Are there? Maybe in any weight class, there's. We'll say women. Just say women. In any weight class, is there 100 women in the world that you'd have a tough time, or you have to think about it and do some strategizing. In any weight class, so including the heavier weight divisions. Mm-hmm. So and then we start filtering that down to your weight class. I'm like, there's not too many girls, very few in the world that you'd have to do any preparation for to give them a really bad day.
And to be one of the best fighters in the world, I've had to go through so many physical difficulties. To be incredible in business, you gotta watch some boring stuff, and you have to learn some boring shit here and again, just so that you can create these exciting adventures for your life. It is not that hard, you guys. It's not that painful. It's not that scrutinizing. You just gotta do some things that other people are unwilling to do. Instead of playing your video games for 5 hours, maybe do some business for 1 hour and play video games for 4. Already there you're supplementing and you're creating smaller habits that are going to turn into a bigger roller coaster later on.
Don't stay poor. Let's talk about Vanessa. Great momentum in your career. You're starting to be pretty serious. I know you've made money in the past. You did some entrepreneurial things, to some non-traditional things to help make money to pay for your lifestyle, to focus on your career. Makes sense. I think looks to me you're on the brink of becoming pretty serious about entrepreneurship and investment for your future. Got some endorsement money. Got some lot of opportunities right now because some spotlight on you and some opportunities. What do you want to do yet in your career? What do you want to do after that? What are the next things or those next chapters in the midterm and long term for you? The next 60 years or so?
Yeah, yes. Right now, I'm striving to be the best athlete that I can be. And also, I've gotten into broadcasting. So I'm on the microphone. I'm doing pre and post show for the UFC, working for UFC Fight Pass, which is getting me comfortable with speaking. And it's also helping me to grow my knowledge as a fighter, which is helping my fight IQ inside of the cage. Past that, when I'm done fighting, I want to travel the world, be on stages, and help millions of people with my own story of overcoming and helping to share and inspire others. As well as being an author. I love writing and just helping people. That's my purpose. Everything else is passion. It's know-how. It's wanting to create a better life for myself. But my purpose really is to be able to help millions of people with the things that I went through.
I only want to help a few tens of thousands. I don't think there's millions of people that are ambitious enough to do what I would like them to do or
Isn't
what I
that
hope for
so
them.
unfortunate too?
It is.
Man.
It is. I hear that. I'm not knocking anything you said. I love what you said, and I feel the same thing.
Yeah.
But I can't help somebody that doesn't want to help themselves.
They got to be tuned into the station too.
I learned that from my mom too much. That I spent too much time trying to help my shitty mother, and I regret that. And then that was really a strong takeaway from. I was like, you can't help somebody that doesn't want to help themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that about myself. I think, well, am I showing up for my own success? I think that about my clients. Are they showing up for their own success? Are they doing their part? I think that part's important. But I also have a similar emotional call in. They'd be like, man, I really wish I had somebody that point me in the right direction when I was at this stage or this stage or this stage. So I try to be that person for some people. But you can't be more dedicated to somebody's success than they are. So I think that's an important part. You should come to one of my events and be a guest speaker and do a live talk with me.
I would love to.
Yeah, you won't be too shy to be in front of an audience, if you don't mind.
I'm too shy.
I think you do great.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to come through and have a chat with me. And
You're
a couple of
amazing.
obnoxious laughs. And I love your flatteries.
More than well deserved. All of them.
Some people say, "Oh, don't flatter me." So don't worry, I can take it. So thank you very much for coming through, spending
Thank you
the time.
so much.
You get off your damn couch. Don't stay poor. Don't stay mediocre. Go do something that matters. You got to set your own goals. You have to set that from within. It's really hard to accomplish something if you don't know what you want, if you don't know who you are, then anything will do, So it's very important. Have that clarity. Who are you? What kind of life do you want to live? And then you can start making real judgments about how to gain that success and the effort that you're going to have to put in to do your part to earn your place in the world. And that's where confidence comes from. Confidence is not some imaginary shit that you can tell yourself some fake affirmations and lies and you're going to have sincere confidence. That's not how the world works. It's not how your brain works. But confidence comes from competence. If you and Vanessa spoke about this earlier and exemplifies it well. Wherever you started, if you started, I didn't have great circumstances. She didn't have great circumstances. And even us couple of misfits, I hope you don't take that the wrong way. Even us couple of misfits have done really quite well for ourselves considering, but that wasn't accidental. It's like you develop real confidence by becoming competent. And the only way to be competent is you got to go do those little tough things every day, even when you have a headache, even when you don't feel like it, even when it'd be much more convenient to do something else. You got to show up for your own success, do those little tough things that nobody else wants to do. And pretty soon you pass up all those people that you were putting in the work when they were chilling. And you have the right to feel confident. You have the right to put your arms and flex up like that, and be like 0.000001%. So I hope you earn that too. I'm happy to help you. I'm here for you if you're serious, but you got to show up for your own success. Peace. Thank you.
Some people are confused. They'd say, Derek, what is the 10 Commandments of wealth? Not the 10 maybes of wealth. It's the 10 core things that you're going to need to know about in detail if you'd like to accumulate significant wealth in your lifetime. Click this link up here to find more information, exactly what is the 10 Commandments of wealth, how is the program structured, what's inside of it, how are you going to benefit from it. If you're doing well already and you'd like to do better, click that link and find out more. There's over 100 hours of content in this program. I've interviewed dozens of world champions that shared what it took for them to win, to be the top Hall of Fame athletes in their respective areas. And I brought a lot of other superstars in there from business, people that are real world entrepreneurs and made serious money, as I have myself. We all share with you what are the foundations you're going to need to know if you want to be successful yourself. Be a chooser, not a loser. Leave a comment if you want a business or success question answered, and subscribe for even more winning.